How can mentorship inspire courage and empower future transformative leaders?
The mentor can only teach when the mentee is ready and have certain direction on where they want to go. Then the mentor can come in and give certain advices. But I also feel when the mentor is doing the mentorship, he or she needs to be active in overseeing the person that they're mentoring and not just be very passive and wait for the mentee to come on. Because I feel like it's a tango, if one person is putting in some effort, he or she needs a mentor precisely because they don't know what they don't know. And the mentor could come in and point out what are the possible blind spots, what are the possible routes in terms of direction that they can take if they are not sure. And give them some tips, just in general. At that stage in life, what could they look out for? Both mentor and mentee needs to play an equal part in this relationship.
Yeah, I think it's a very important relationship, and having mentors that believe in us, that can, be open to highlight our blind spots, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a mirror for us, right?
Yeah.
And I think most importantly is believing in us so that they encourage us to move forward. Welcome to the Summit series of Voices of Courage Asia, where we celebrate leaders, changemakers, and visionaries who embody courage and drives transformative impact. I'm your host for today. My name is Lillian, and in this special series, we explore stories of resilience, leadership, and the bold steps taken to create meaningful change. Today, we are very excited because I have a very special guest with me, and she is none other than Lisa. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Hi, nice to see you guys again.
Yeah, Lisa is no stranger to us, and in fact, she is a banking professional turned entrepreneur and founder in Stillen Maternity, a corporate maternity wear brand. A mother of two, she advocates mental self-care and resilience. As a certified Enneagram coach, NLP practitioner, and positive intelligence coach, she uplifts women as and also a team leader in Women of Courage Asia. So today we are joined with a leader who is empowering working moms and mental wellness. Nice to have you today, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Lillian.
The spotlight has to be on you because you are an inspiring leader to us, and we want to appreciate you for that. Yeah. So we're just going to have a conversation, right? Extract as much wisdom from you and insights from you as possible so that our audience out there can benefit and be inspired by you. Let's talk about your personal journey of leadership. We are here talking about inspiration, courage, and transformation, right? And the impact. So what does inspiring courage for transformative impact mean to you personally?
So actually, I was also pondering about this slogan. It just brought to my analogy that somebody once shared with me about the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is full of nutrients, full of all the goodness of things inside there, but actually it bear no life inside the Dead Sea itself, and it's dead for that reason. And it just reminds me that, when we have been given a lot of good things, we learn a lot of good things in life, we cannot just keep it at our level. It needs to keep a flowing stream out to, different parts of the society, the parts of the body, just to make sure that, whatever that is being given to us is also given out to bless other people. So I think really when change has come into my life, I would like to inspire somebody else to do the same.
Yeah, you are definitely inspiring so many of us already. Yeah, and of course in your wider sphere of influence, that's for sure. Yeah. And okay, let's recall back, is there a pivotal moment when courage transformed how you lead and approach challenges?
I think for me, something that I always still look back as something that was a turning point earlier there's several turning points, but I always look to this particular one because it was the first major decision that I had kind of to make for myself. And that was like at the A-levels. Where I was given a choice to change to a better school when I got my final A-level result. So for my prelim, I didn't do that well. I did terribly. And I went to a different junior college for my first 3 months. And after enjoying that first 3 months, I made a lot of friends. I really enjoyed my time there. But given the better result, I could go to a different school. And it was really very difficult to make that choice. Do I stay and enjoy my life with friends that I've already made? And just cruise for the next 2 years? And probably I would just do as decently well, right? Since my grades just prove that I actually can study. But deep within me, I kind of knew what are the pitfalls that I was setting myself up for. Like, I would potentially be enjoying my life a little bit too much and not really focusing on what should be my duty at that time, which is to study. And that was the time when we are all young adults, young teenagers exploring maybe some VGRs and whatnot. So I was kind of worried that that would become the focus of my life. And that will become my parents' worry as well. So I was very, very determined that I wanted to make it to the local university so as not to give my parents the financial burden of sending me overseas, right? So I literally changed my decision a few times. And at the last final minute, I made it to change it to the junior college that is better, as in a better scoring one, just to make sure that I would study harder, be around people who are a bit more, I guess, studious. I'm not saying that the other schools are not studious, but I needed a more structured environment for myself. I knew that that was my weakness. If I did not have a supportive and a structured environment, I would very likely fall away.
So
Yeah.
you knew what will support you in moving
Yes.
forward to achieve better results for yourself. So and then given the option of the whether to stay for the friends and the two environments uh, that you need to consider to change, right? That requires the courage to actually pull yourself out from one environment to another.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Even at that young age, and that registered with you. You remember that pivotal
Yes, I was crying when I was pressing the
moment. Right. So then that is like an example of self leadership, right? The very first moment in one of your earlier moments where you actually exhibited self leadership without even knowing it, right? So what inspired you later on to step into leadership role consciously now, and how has this journey influenced others?
I would say I'm not natural leader in the sense that I would always want to strive for a leadership role. I'm happy to take a back seat and just watch if there's other leaders willing to take up that role. But I think I would put myself out there when I see that there are specific areas that I think I can contribute, and kind of like my role is more of standing in the gap to just close up what other people cannot. So not so much leadership, but I like to think myself as a person who likes to close the gap. So I look out for how I can value add to whoever is, either leading the team, or if there's no one leading the team, then I'll be the one that set out to close the gap between the senior management or the junior staff in that kind of sense. Yeah. So I don't see myself as a leader. I see myself as connector.
You're so humble. Yeah. In every area of our life, actually, there's different leadership required in different spheres, different levels, right? So yeah, you're just being so humble. Thank you. Yeah. We need leaders who can close the gap, who can be the connector, and you are exemplifying what leadership looks like in that layer, right? Or in that sphere of influence. Right. And okay, how about decision making then? Because as leaders, right, we make decisions and oftentimes very difficult decisions. So is there a story that you can share with the audience when you had to make a courageous decision as a leader, right? Being in the gap, meeting that gaps, in whichever sphere of influence that you are in. And yeah, is there a story that you can share about making a courageous decision?
Nothing really stands out at this point, but if I think about it, just a very recent, anniversary that we did last year.
Mm.
Yeah, so being kind of like the project manager for the last year's anniversary for Women of Courage Asia, kind of like it's a little bit, it's still daunting for me, to put myself out there and lead somebody, because making decision is for yourself is easy, but when you have to make a decision for everyone, for the organization, and not wanting to offend or leave a bad impression on people, that's something that I feel is often very hard for women. And for me, that was also something that I used to struggle with a lot. Yeah. So I would rather keep myself quiet than to speak up sometimes. But I think last year, when I decided to take on the baton of organizing the anniversary, yeah, I choose to take the feeling, the emotions outside of the decision, and and just look at it at a very broad level, a very macro level, and say, hey, facts is facts. If this just by rationale basis, this is how it converges into that decision and it makes rationale sense, sure, let's just do it. I don't want to attach too much feelings as this is something that I am making, but rather this is something that the facts is leading us. And to me, making the judgment call that this is a consensus, this can be a consensus agreement. I'll let everybody decide together. But if timing calls for it, for urgency, I mean, I think I let facts speak for itself. Like, I mean, we all know rationally that is the right decision to make in the midst of emergency. Then, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was there with you, and I know how challenging that is. That is indeed a courageous decision that you make to, as stepping into that leadership role. And I know the struggle that you are facing, the predicament, the uncertainty, the all that whatnot. The voices that's in your head. But you step up, and then you did what you know is the best for the community, and you did a great job. So yeah, so thanks for stepping up into that, meeting that gap, like you said, right? Meeting the gap and making the decision, and able to you actually answer one of the questions that I had in mind, which is about balancing the emotions versus the strategic decision that you need to make. Yeah, which I think your this example here can demonstrate the the challenging position that you are in between your mind and the whole organization, right?
Yeah, actually, if I add, I think it's a growing growth itself, or a learning point for me when I learned to take myself not to take myself so seriously. Like sometimes okay, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I do feel in general a lot of women tend to focus a lot of the decision because they think the decision centers on them. But I've learned to be able to extract that and say, hey, this decision is not about me.
Mm, yeah.
So
I mean, we don't know what we don't know. We make decisions based on what we know and the limited information that we know. So whatever outcome that is, we just embrace it and celebrate it, right? And if it didn't meet the expectations that we want, yeah, we learn from it and then move on. Right.
it's
So
it's
yeah.
a feedback anyway. Not to take not to take our feedback so seriously as well.
Yeah. So leadership is indeed a growth journey. And, each one of us are are willing to be vulnerable and take on that responsibility. Like you said, responsibility is a weight that not everyone is ready to take on. Right. So, but thank you for taking on that responsibility and that weight, together with the team. And like you said, it's not about one person alone, but the whole team coming together. Yeah, so that's beautiful. Yes, thanks for sharing that story. And for the audience out there, if you can resonate with what Lisa mentioned, and if you're struggling, right, to in making decisions because of those narratives that Lisa had shared earlier, yeah, do know that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Yeah, and as long as you're making the decision together with a team, right? You have the whole team supporting you. Yeah, so you're not in this alone. And if you do feel alone, for our audience out there, do join us, right, at Women of Courage Asia community. Right, I take this opportunity to do a shout out. We are celebrating our 6th anniversary this year. So yeah, Lisa will still be involved in managing the what you call that, the dinner, right? The anniversary dinner. So, and come and meet her and connect with her not only at the dinner but also at the summit. Yeah. So she's a very nice person. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the people that we are leading. The people that you are leading or influencing, right? In one way or another. How do you encourage or even cultivate courage in people, or the team that you are leading? How do you do that?
I'm not the person who likes to micromanage.
Mm.
So I guess in terms of managing the team, I generally give I expect people to know what they've signed up for. I trust them with the responsibilities that is part of the team. Of course, having said that, everything must be laid out very clearly for them to know what to do in the first place.
Mm,
Yeah, so for me, courage is not something that is, how do I say, you can teach like a step by step thing. I
mm,
feel like courage is something that needs to be a contagious thing. So, really is finding opportunities where we meet up to connect, to just share some of the challenges that I've been going through,
mm,
and then also sharing how I have overcome that. And hopefully, just like how we do our story of courage at Money and Power meeting, right? It's really sharing those stories that helps inspire somebody else who might be in a similar situation, and let them have the idea that, hey, if Lisa can do it, maybe I can as well. Because for me, this is how I learn courage as well. I draw a lot of strength from learning from other people's story,
mm.
because when you see how other people behave and triumph over circumstances, it gives you hope, and it allows you to, yeah, just sometimes see that you're not alone in all the struggles and difficulties that you're facing, right? And your trouble sometimes can seem smaller when you go to see what other people are also going through.
Yeah.
And yeah, suddenly it just seemed more possible to overcome.
I like what you said. Courage is contagious, and yeah, it is. Indeed, the courage is contagious, and inspiration. Like what I'm drawing out from what you're sharing is, we inspire. In order to encourage and cultivate courage in other people, we inspire them with our stories, our experiences, our vulnerability, right, and our own challenges, and yeah, and then contaminate them with courage. All right. Okay, now you work a lot with women, right? We work surrounded by women, teammates, and all that. How about workspace? Is the proportion, or how's the proportion like?
um, Actually, I work in a very male-dominated environment.
Okay,
95% of my colleagues are male.
wow.
Yeah.
Then for those women that you work with, or even for yourself, what do you find is a very evident and a prominent challenge that women face, and how can they overcome this to lead others with courage and purpose?
Um, I think firstly, it's the stereotype in the workplace, right? Especially coming from where I am in a very male-dominated environment. Very often, there's a lot of fear because women, we have certain giftings and certain responsibility in our lives that maybe the male do not take as seriously, or maybe they don't feel like it's their main priority duties. So especially for women who are like me, moms or moms to be, I think that often tend to be a very difficult transition period at work. Or even, for those trying to conceive, even, there are people that have come across who are even afraid to get pregnant,
Ah,
just because they worry that, oh, what if I get pregnant and my job is going to be at risk, because I'm going to be away 4 months from my job. And if my clients are not able to reach me, somebody's going to take my portfolio. Then what happens? I might not have a job when I come back. So all these things are also creating a lot of unnecessary stories in our lives, and making us make certain decisions that may otherwise regret if we allow them to rule and dominate. Yeah.
mm,
So for me, thankfully I don't have the struggle of the sales part. But for me, I did struggle with, when coming back to work, I wasn't able to attend all the late night meetings, be as involved in certain projects because I needed to rush off to pick my kids and things like that. So
mm,
there tend to be, I guess it comes from within, the negative self-talk also, that, I'm not pulling my weight at work. I'm not being a good team player. Is my boss going to mark me down because of that? all these noises. Yeah. So I think first and foremost for me, I feel it's very important for the women out there. You need to separate what is your voice telling you and what's the real voice of the people around trying to say.
Mm.
Is this your own negative talk, or is that something that your colleagues are really saying? And if they are really saying, is that something then you can address, and come to agreement and say, hey, I may not be able I may not be able to do 5 days a week. How about if I do 2 days a week? And then you kind of rope in your other half to kind of support you in the picking out the kids, or find alternative arrangement in that sense.
Mm.
Like when you bring things out into the light and you discuss about it, a lot of the fears you realize are unfounded for.
Mm. Yeah, I like what you said about, making things work. Is to me, what I'm hearing is to make things work, how we can make things work.
Yeah,
Uh, and finding the support that is needed for to accomplish the goal, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So yes, and differentiating what is your own voice versus what is the real voice out there. And if it's a feedback, and if it's a constructive feedback, then yeah, address it, right?
yes. And
Yeah,
going back to the same point, not to take it personally.
not to take it personally. Yes. Right. Let's talk a little bit about the impact and transformation. Yeah. In creating impact, right? What role does courage play in driving social impact?
I mean, just like what we are doing at Women Courage Asia, right? I
Yeah.
think that it's maybe because I've been in the community for some time, it's really very entrenched in me that actually is a very simple, it's not simple. The change, the whole mindset shift can come. When it comes, it's so powerful because once you've been liberated and you had your mindset shift, even just by a small bit, you suddenly realize that your options and your possibility are so much more. And because of that, you are liberated to do a lot more because you're not limited by you know your mindset. You're not and you're open to a lot more opportunity and possibility out there. So whether is it in your home space, your personal life, your workspace, I feel like everything becomes more optimistic just because you're viewing it from a more optimistic lens.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, insight. And it's definitely worth, taking in, let that sink in, right? That audience, let that sink in and creating so that, you will continue to exhibit courage in driving a social change. Just give one example that you are recently being inspired of a transformative leadership.
I would say it will be my friend. So she owns a designer label. She's a local fashion designer,
Mm.
and she has gone through breast cancer while with a boy that was barely 2 year old at that point.
Mm.
And still running that business and still hanging on to her faith, even though she was going through such a difficult time. And in the midst of it all, still championing for sustainability in the environment for her label. Because it was something that just came in the midst of it all. And I really didn't know how she and the husband are working on this together in the company. But how they managed to still create these achievement for themselves in their business.
Mm.
And thankfully she recovered and she is now all better and thriving with her boy. So yeah, for me it's always very amazing when I see women who excel to that at that scale.
Mm.
For us, we carry so many roles and responsibility, and in the midst of that, yet you still are able to do something for the society. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that is indeed a great reminder that in spite of whatever challenges that we are in, if we stay focused on the mission and the cause that we stand for, and we are has strong conviction in, definitely, we can overcome challenges in spite of, I mean, we can progress with the objective and our goal in spite of the challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on very quickly to your advice, right, for leaders out there or aspiring leaders who are stepping into a new leadership role and they want to make an impact, and what is the advice for them to make an impact, but while still staying true to their values? Because we wanting to do something and pushing the agenda is one thing, but staying true to their values.
First, crystallize your values.
Yes.
Yes. I think that the first and foremost important thing that you need to know, what does your business stand for? Because I think for a lot of people, maybe when they started out the business, they didn't have big dreams in mind. It was just a mode of survival. I needed to do something to earn money and or maybe to hustle and just run the business. They weren't thinking so much. But I think when the business is growing and you have a desire to make the business something that is just more than that little cocoon that you're in, then I think you need to start thinking a bit more, first the values, and then expound on those values and see where that leads to. Yeah. So for me, really crystallizing is the most important thing.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We've got to be anchored with a set of core values, right? They are like our compass, right? What you stand for.
Yeah.
Finally, about mentorship and empowerment. So, how can mentorship inspire courage and empower future transformative leaders?
Well, I think mentorship is so important, but I think mentorship is also taken very differently from different people and different companies in that sense. Because I've gone through some mentorship in my corporate life, but I think a lot of time the mentorship is deemed to be supposed to be very mentee driven, which I do agree, yes, to some point, because the mentor can only teach when the mentee is ready and have certain direction on where they want to go. Then the mentor can come in and give certain advices. But I also feel when the mentor is doing the mentorship, he or she needs to be active in overseeing the person that they're mentoring and not just be very passive and wait for the mentee to come on. Because I feel like it's a tango, if one person is putting in some effort, he or she needs a mentor precisely because they don't know what they don't know. And the mentor could come in and help point out, what are the possible blind spots, what are the possible routes in terms of direction that they can take if they are not sure, and give them some tips, just in general at that stage in life, what could they look out for? Because I feel like those will be the questions that I had problem asking my mentor when I was way younger, because I didn't know how to connect, I didn't know how to address. So I feel that both mentor and mentee needs to play a equal part in this relationship.
Yeah, I think it's a very important relationship, and having mentors that believe in us, that can, be open to highlight our blind spots, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a mirror for us, right?
Yeah.
And I think most importantly is believing in us and so that they encourage us to move forward. And now, being the mentor for others, that willing to do the same for others. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa, for your valuable time. I know you are busy, right in the midst of your work. Yeah. So for those of you who out there who want to connect with Lisa, we'll put the link, to connect with her in the group description. If you have found inspiration in today's episode, I encourage you to start taking action, whether just to step out of your comfort zone, embrace new opportunities, or supporting a social cause like this, right? Stay connected with us, subscribe, share, and leave a review. Okay, so and this has been another powerful episode of the Summit series on Voices of Courage Asia, where we inspire courage and transformative impact. So until next time, keep leading with courage and making a difference. We'll see you at the summit.
Yes, see you there.
Bye.
Bye.